Welcome to LOA Today. Walt Thiessen, Alyx King, and Carlos Balasquita here on this Tuesday, November the 20th, 2018. It is 4 p.m. New York time, 1 p.m. Los Angeles time. That's 9 p.m. London time and 8 a.m. Sydney, Australia time. So we're covering the time zones of the world, and we hope you're off to a great start or having a good day, having good things happening. We hope that you're having your daily dose of happy, and if you're not, we're going to help you get there today because we're going to be dealing with an issue that it's actually a continuation of a discussion that we started last week on the topic of anxiety, which Alyx and Carlos assured me is something that affects a lot of young people today. A lot of people who are in the millennial generation are touched in some way by anxiety, whether it be a more formal form similar to what you might find in a therapeutic situation or just sort of general anxieties. And so, yeah, I was glad that we're starting to do this topic. Also, I did an experiment on Monday morning that worked out really nicely, and so we're going to try to expand on that experiment today. We're going to invite people who are listening to the live stream of our podcast recording while we're live streaming to Facebook's Law of Attraction Changed My Life group. So if you're listening in today on the Law of Attraction Changed My Life group on Facebook and you have comments or questions or something you want to share about your experience either with anxiety or something that you're anxious about, feel free to just put something into the comments section. I'll be monitoring what's going in there, and then as you guys enter stuff, I'll bring it up to the panel here, and we'll address it. We'll see if we've got some answers for you, or at least we'll know what the right questions are to ask. So, first things first, Alyx, since you're laughing, hello, how you doing? How's it going?
I'm good. I'm just hanging out, doing my thing.
That's a good thing. Yeah, well, since you're laughing, that's why I had to come to you first, because this is the Daily Dose of Happy, so we had to start off with somebody who's like really, really high right now on laughter, so that's a good thing.
That's me.
That's you. All right. And Carlos, you've been dealing with all kinds of stuff, but I have to say, guy, your attitude is great today, considering what you've been going through. How's it going?
Yeah, I think it's been going good. Not everything's going to my liking, but that happens. So I'm right now dealing with some termite issue at my apartment, and I've been dealing with the property management, or not dealing with them, I guess you can say. Because nobody wants to, answer my emails and my calls and stuff. But no, I mean we're making it happen. We got the people out there. That's why I'm streaming from the car today. So get a little scenic view.
Oh, there we go.
Sunny California.
Nice car, by the way.
Oh, thank you. So yeah, just hanging in there.
That's the good thing about being in sunny Cal, Southern Cal especially, because you can go outside and it's nice and comfortable out there. I mean, if I try to do the same thing,
it's already dark out here.
Yeah, it's getting dark. It's cold. I mean, Thanksgiving. Have you seen what the forecast is, Alyx, for Thanksgiving? We're supposed to get, here in Connecticut, we're supposed to get a low Thanksgiving night of 9 degrees.
Yes, it's going to be freezing.
So there are definite blessings.
My freezer at home isn't even 9 degrees.
So, we talk about anxiety, right? Anybody who is not cold friendly is starting to feel some anxiety right now just because the temperatures are going to be going down.
Right. And we even talk about the wind chill. The wind chill is like -1.
Yeah. So, yeah, sunny Cal is a good place to be right now, I have to say.
I'm going to go visit Carlos.
Yeah, and actually, that's what's nice. It's one of those gratitude points that you always have. So it's how bad can life be? It's a great, beautiful day outside.
It really is. Yeah, well, weather does pick you up. It does feel better, no matter what's going on. You can just kind of kick it up a notch just because the weather's good. It makes you feel good. At least that's the way it does for me.
Right.
Yeah. So, let's get into the topic. And once again, I want to remind people we're doing something, a little bit of an experiment today. If you have any comments that you want to share, any questions you want to ask, maybe things you're dealing with, maybe you have your own anxiety issues, maybe it's not so much anxiety, but something else related to law of attraction, whatever it is, put them into the comments section. I'll bring them in, and we'll talk about them in the course of our conversation. But last week, we had a couple of really interesting things happen. First of all, Carlos, you brought your brother in, Gabriel, to tell us his story, which was a fascinating story. And really, it was an empowering story, too. It was a story of taking something that is generally considered to be kind of a disability and turning it into a place of power. What did he call it? He called it his superpower, right? His ability to take his what some people would call the disadvantage of having anxiety and turn it into an advantage where he can actually be better at playing a certain kind of video game, which just like blew my mind when I heard that one. But I love it. I love the fact that he was able to do that, which is fantastic. And then we started to hear Alyx's story, and Alyx, we kind of ran out of time on you, so we're going to give you a little more time to tell your story today. But I'm going to just kind of back off a little bit and ask you guys, where do you want to go with this? Alyx, do you want to go into your story more, or shall we just go into the topic more generally, or what do you guys want to do?
I think we should start off going off generally.
Okay.
Just to get everybody who wasn't paying attention last week and, get them into the know.
That's a good idea, yeah. And already we've got one hello. Hannah is one of our regulars, and she's saying hello. Hi, Hannah. How you doing? Good for you to join us today.
Hi, Hannah.
Yeah. So anxiety, I got a bit of an education last week because I didn't realize that it actually has what you might call, okay, I just lost the word. Clinical. It has a clinical side to it. It actually has a clinical definition and so forth. And that kind of surprised me. I didn't realize it was an actual clinical condition. I didn't look it up, but it's probably in the DSM-IV, which is what the therapists use. But you've been dealing with it directly, so you have some more specific knowledge about it. I mean, Alyx, why don't you tell us what you know about anxiety? I mean, I know you're not a therapist, but you've experienced it. You've dealt with it yourself. So what do you know about it as a condition?
As a condition, it can be detrimental. So, I mean, for me personally, it's, I don't know who was paying attention last week, but yes, it keeps me inside. Like, I need to be in my safe space or I'm not okay.
And that's kind of limiting. I mean, it takes, it cuts down on the things you can do because you're just feeling that anxiousness. I mean, what does it feel like? I mean, everybody's felt some level of anxiety, I guess, at various times in their lives. Is it like that times 10, or what is it?
Yeah, it is. I've personally, my palms get sweaty, my heart starts racing, my legs start shaking, I can't really catch my breath, and those are just the symptoms that I go through. Wow.
Yeah, that's pretty severe. Of course, also that's very similar to what some people describe the first time they fall in love, but nevertheless, it's a different kind of thing.
It's scary nonetheless.
Yeah, right. And Carlos, because your brother has dealt with it, you've experienced it kind of vicariously because you live in the same house. You grew up with the guy. What's it like living with somebody who's experiencing that? And I know it's got to feel frustrating because you want to help in some way, but you feel like you can't. I mean, that's got to be a kind of a tough situation for people who are living with people or who are close to people who have anxiety.
Yeah, I think it's tough to understand. I think that's the hardest part. Like my brother said, like other things have symptoms that are visible, whereas anxiety is like all in the mind. So it's hard to kind of put yourself in that person's shoes. You know what I mean? I've dealt with anxiety as well, not chronically. So like I dealt with it and it's kind of gone away and then dealt with it again. But yeah, he has chronic and what Alyx has is chronic. So that means all the time, right? And so having experienced it is, I was better equipped to kind of help him. But really, even still, there's only so much you can really do. So yeah, it's a little frustrating. But I think also like you just do what you can, right? I would make sure he was eating okay and sleeping all right, and let's go get some exercise. Let's go outside. Let's go do things that you like that make you feel good. But yeah, don't feel like you have to be a person's, savior or something, because you can't, but you do what you can, and even those little things help. And that makes you feel at least like you're contributing in some way,
Yeah, absolutely. What you said you dealt with it yourself, not chronically. So what were your symptoms like? Were they similar to what Alyx was describing, or how did it come through for you?
Yeah, well, because you can have anxiety and depression and other things, right? But those are the two that I dealt with. And then you can have them chronically, which means like that you just always are dealing with that. Sorry, there's a street sweeper coming by right now.
Well, just as long as it doesn't make you feel anxious, that's the main thing.
No, but yeah, so I think that's even harder for some people to understand too. Is like significant others and even people you're dating. If it's not something that you've always had and it's something that you get, and it's like, oh, now I'm dealing with this. It's hard, I feel like that's even a struggle in and of itself versus, people that have it chronically where they always have it and you kind of know that going in. Like I dealt with that where I didn't even know what was going on. And I was in this depression. I had like major anxiety, and then it took me a few months to get out of it. And, then, once I was kind of clear of that, then I realized, oh shit, sorry.
No, we want this to be clean.
Excuse me.
That's all right.
I flip back and forth from the comedy, so. So that's tough too, is kind of, some people deal with it that never have, and they don't know that they're dealing with it until like really after the fact, or once something's kind of, so that's why last week when we were talking about kind of what it feels like, and those things are important. And again, I like to draw, so I wanted my brother and, Alyx, and to kind of give that anecdotal feedback so that people can kind of recognize their own symptoms without us having to like give advice necessarily, like, oh, if you have this, go through this.
Right.
But it's like, hey, you can kind of listen to how other people have dealt with these things and draw your own lessons from those experiences,
right. It also makes me wonder, is there a similarity or any overlap between anxiety and extreme shyness? Because that's what I experienced when I was growing up and when I was in my early 20s and late 20s and even early 30s. I had a lot of issues with really severe shyness. I mean, just going up and introducing myself to somebody I had never met before was just terribly intimidating to me. And even just people I knew, people I had been somewhat familiar with, I'd met a couple times, talked with and so forth. I was the classic wallflower. I was the person who just, stayed in the background and didn't say a word. And it just makes me wonder, was I experiencing something similar? I don't really know.
Well, shyness can cause anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
And it make, doing those things that put you out of your comfort zone can make you feel anxious.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't say that would be the clinical definition of anxiety.
No, probably not. No.
That's just a stressful situation.
I think, and a lot of that stuff, I feel like has a lot to do with your upbringing and how you grew up and your personality. That's something that really is just like you. You don't really create that as much as you just are who you are.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So, but yeah, I mean those are. I feel like that's why I preach always doing or trying new things. I'm all about always trying new things, because the more you step out of your comfort zone, the more your comfort zone expands, right? It's like, and it's less uncomfortable to get uncomfortable. If that makes sense.
It does make sense, actually. In fact, I saw a post somewhere, I think it was on Facebook, something that, I don't remember the exact phrasing, but it was something like the most uncomfortable place to be is your comfort zone. And there's a lot of truth to that, because when you're in your so-called comfort zone, you're not straying out of it because of various fears about something, who knows what. But very often when we're staying in the comfort zone, we're putting up with something that doesn't feel very good, but at least it's familiar. at least it's something that I know all about. I've been there before. I can handle that, and it makes you wonder just how comfortable is it? It sounds pretty uncomfortable after a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas climbing out of the comfort zone, that sounds scary. It sounds scary the first time you climb out of your comfort zone, but then again, if you get a good experience, something positive happens because you stepped out. I mean, that I think kind of summarizes for me what happened with my own shyness. The more that I started to step out, the less my old comfort zone was comfortable anymore. And the more the new stepping outness became comfortable. It's almost like the comfort zone shifts, maybe? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you make it sound like it's so simple there, Alyx. Yep, okay.
Yeah. No, what I meant to say was, yes, like the comfort zone definitely shifts. Like, with my agoraphobia, I went from never not leaving my room. Like, it wasn't even leaving my room. I had built a fort in my room, and I wouldn't leave the fort. So it was that bad. And then now I'm at the point where I've been to my BFAM's wedding. I've been to his baby shower. So, I can do little things. I got about like a 2-hour gap until I start to get really anxious and I have to go back home. But it's taken me 10 years. So baby steps.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. And then you go, oh, okay, 2 hours, and then you might be having fun one day, and then it's like you look up and it's 2.5. And oh wow, like that's growth, right? And you don't get that until you're in your out of your comfort zone, right? You can't get that growth anywhere but there. And I think that you had a good point where you talk about when you step out of first of all, a lot of our fear for stepping out of the comfort zone is irrational, right? So we are deciding an outcome, or we're creating an outcome in our mind that hasn't happened yet, right? So we don't know that to be true, and a lot of times we're wrong. We're wrong so many times. It'll baffle you, right? So that's the first thing, and so you start to succeed, right? You get out of your comfort zone and you actually succeed rather than fail. So that's number one, and that gives you some confidence, right? And the confidence allows you to grow, but also that confidence. Now you start to go, and you start reaching, you start maybe going a little bit further out of your comfort zone, until you get to the failure zone, right? And the failure zone is just as powerful as the success, right? Because when you start to fail, the first time you fail something really, like something that is super important, and you survive it, and you're like, oh, okay, like, you know what? Even when it happened, like, when what I thought, like, the worst thing that was going to happen, it happened 2 times worse than that. I survived, and it was fine. And you know what? I'm here, and that, creates like armor. You know what I mean? To be able to now know 2 things: that most of the time, stepping out of the comfort zone, I'll probably succeed, and if not, I'll be able to withstand the failure. And I think both of those things are super important growth that, again, you cannot get inside your comfort zone.
Yeah, I think that's true. In fact, what you're describing is often described by success gurus and so forth as being growing a thicker skin. When you grow that thicker skin, you're doing it because you're doing it outside the comfort zone. You're putting yourself out to do something that doesn't feel really comfortable maybe the first time, but the more that you do it, the more comfortable it becomes, and then all of a sudden you can handle it better just because you went for it. You put yourself out there. Whereas when you don't do that, when you stay in the comfort zone, that's what you made reference to the fear, Carlos. And I presume you guys have heard the acronym for fear, FEAR, false evidence appearing real.
Right. Never heard of that.
Yeah. False evidence appearing real. It's a good way to remember that fear 99% of the time is not based on anything actually going to attack you or kill you or, drag you off into the river or something like that. 99 times out of 100, it's just it's in our head. It's something that we have decided we're afraid of for whatever reason, but it's not rational. It's just based on pure fear. And it's not always easy to remember that. It's not always easy to remember, especially when you're afraid of something like...
not in the moment.
No, not in the moment. That's a challenge. But it's also a good thing to focus on.
So that's conditioning, though. I think that just like anything, you don't go to the gym. You don't start going to the gym every day, right? You try, and then, oh man, I only made it 3 days this week, and then you try again, and maybe you go down to 2, and then you try, oh man, now I'm at 4, and you kind of just struggle to get to some consistency. And I think that your mind is the same way. The mind is super powerful, and so don't give up trying to make that kind of conditioning in your mind, as far as like, hey, when something scary happens, just realize that you're in a scary moment, and then take a second and think about, is this thought that I'm having based on something real, or am I just kind of overdoing it? And really just take that time, because you're right. It's hard to think about that second, and so it just comes with practice to like recondition that that part of the brain.
No, it's true. That's what we're doing most of the time with most of the stuff that we often call our tapes, the things that we grew up with, the subconscious tapes that play that tell us, oh, you can't do this, oh, you'll never get anywhere with that, you're not worthy, you're not good enough, you're too fat, you're too short, you're too tall, you're too skinny, whatever. It's just it's the tapes, and those tapes are. They're called tapes because they're ingrained. They're built in. They're really just recorded over and over and over again. And it does take some time to rewrite them, but they can be rewritten, and that's the good news. That's what you're referring to, Carlos. The fact that they can be rewritten. It's good. It's good stuff. What are some of your favorite strategies then for dealing with anxiety? I mean, obviously it's about stepping outside the comfort zone based on what we've been talking about. But what do you guys do? I mean, like what's your Alyx, when you're really feeling it and you're feeling the need to hover in home and so forth, and you've decided you want to step out of the comfort zone, what do? What's your first step?
When I want to step out of my comfort zone, for one thing, I have 2 service dogs that I bring with me. So that helps, because they're for 2 purposes. One, yes, my wolf pack. They're little wolf packs, but they're definitely my wolf pack, and I'm their person. But yeah, so I bring they have separate jobs, I guess you want to say. Rusty is a Yorkie, and he's more for when I have to go to the grocery store or something like that. So he's like the take charge, or okay, we're going to turn this corner. He knows his left from right. He's very good, and he's also a seizure awareness dog. So that's another reason I take him out is, God forbid I had a seizure, he knows to alert people and let them know that I'm not okay. So that's another problem I have with the fear of going outside, is I'm afraid of having a seizure and or a panic attack, and everybody's looking at me and going, oh my God, is she okay? And, so I have that irrational fear, which is why I'm like, nah, I'd rather stay home. So that's the one thing I do. Then the second thing that really works for me is distraction. So that's how I got heavily into TV, because it's like reading a book. It's like it takes me out of my world. So, and I'm not concentrating on what's going on in the moment. I'm just, focusing on what's going on in that world at the time. So those are my 2. I mean, last week we talked about grounding with Gabriel, and that doesn't work for me, because I have racing thoughts. That's part of my autism thing. And with the racing thoughts, I can't control them. So grounding, like, for people who don't know what grounding is you sit there and you say to yourself, okay, let's think of 5 things that are red. And then you go, okay, red fire trucks. And then my brain goes, red fire trucks. What color are those red fire trucks? And now I'm quoting Family Guy. And then I'm like, well, what episode was that? That's how my brain works. So grounding does not work for me.
Yeah. When you can't do your own associations, that can be a problem. I can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's interesting, though. The strategies that you use are apparently effective for you, which is a good thing. It's good to have your strategies. You mentioned seizures. Is that part of anxiety disorder, or is that part of something else?
Totally separate or disorder that I have.
Oh, okay. I mean, not okay, don't get me wrong, but thank you for clarifying is what I mean by okay.
Yeah, but distraction, I think that you touched on a good point because Gabriel talked about the same thing. And that's how he got into video games is he would need to be distracted, and that was perfect for him because he would just do that and get, like you with the, but a great point too is like if your distraction becomes your passion, then that's when that positive flip happens, right? And Alyx can probably talk more about that, but I think that's a very key thing that we want to see in both these stories is that okay, there was the issue, right? And then it's like, okay, now how are we looking to resolve it, right? And so they both found that distraction was good for them. Mm-hmm. Okay, and then that positive change is when that distraction becomes a passion, or when you're passionate about your distraction, right? Because in anything that you're passionate about, there's only going to be positive things that come from that opportunity. Even, you know what I mean? Just because you love it so much that, or you're just into it so much that, you're, like I said before, you're within pointing distance of, opportunities, of, anything positive that can possibly come from that, so.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I also want to mention we have one more hi from somebody. Brownon saying hello. So hi, Brownon. Thanks for joining us. I love the little smiley face you drew. That's cool. And we want to encourage people who are listening in. This is it's not intended to be just us talking to you. If you have comments or questions or anything to share, either on the topic of anxiety or maybe there's just stuff you're anxious about where the law of attraction is concerned, feel free to post a question or share a comment in the comments section of the Law of Attraction Changed My Life group where we're live streaming to as we record this podcast. And I'm monitoring it and, post something in there and we'll tackle it. We may not have all the answers, but we usually know the right questions to ask. So at least we could do that much for you. We might be able to help you solve it, whatever it is. So give it a shot, right? You climb out of the comfort zone. That's what you got to do in order to comment, right? You have to climb out of the comfort zone.
No, I was going to say gratitude is a good one for me too, and for me I guess that's more anxiety tied to depression. When those two are linked, you can kind of get into those racing negative thoughts, and nobody likes me, and everybody at work hates me, and all the thoughts that you have, like someone's mad at me, all these thoughts that really just made up in your head. But that's a great time for gratitude. It's just to really think about all the stuff and list it out loud, even say it out loud, my parents, my friends, and get deep into the gratitude, not just your parents and your friends, but what do they do for you? Because I'm so grateful that they're here for me all the time, and that, you just, when you're in that place of gratitude and you do that for like 10, 15 minutes, it's such a, like you can kind of climb out of that feeling, even if it's just temporarily, because, the depression and all that is something that's kind of ongoing.
Right.
But there's worse times, it's a roller coaster, so there's worse times. But when you get in those times, really, getting deep into the gratitude, the why you're grateful and all that stuff, really is a good tool that I've used to kind of climb out of it.
Well, plus, here in the U.S., gratitude is perfect right now because we're 2 days away from our Thanksgiving holiday, which is all about gratitude of everything that we have in our lives and our families and everything else. So, it's a perfect time to bring up gratitude.
Right. And all the food that we're about to eat.
Yeah, right.
And no, really, for Thanksgiving, the Puerto Rican Thanksgiving that we're going to have here, California with my uncle and cousins, we're going to roast a pig, so
ooh,
it's going to be, it's going to be pretty exciting.
It's going to be intense. Wow. A pig roasting, all right. Well, how nice. Hannah just posted, I'm just grateful for this podcast. Thank you, Hannah. That was really nice.
Thank you, Hannah.
We appreciate you as well. We definitely do.
It's funny how gratitude is probably when you aren't sure where to go emotionally and what steps to take to help shift your mindset, maybe put the fears aside, whatever it is. Gratitude is one of the best first things to go to. I mean, I find anyway. If I'm in a place where I just don't know how to shift, I'm in a bad place. I'm feeling depressed. I'm feeling angry. I'm feeling fearful. I'm feeling frustrated. Just remembering long enough to say, what am I grateful for right now? What's good in my life right now? Is a nice way to just stop the pattern, kind of stop the flow of all that negative junk that's going through my head, and take a moment to just notice little things. I mean, I've seen people post, yeah, but I can't think what it is that I'm grateful for. And if you're in the middle of a negative, place, a negative spin, so to speak, that can be hard. But I always go to, if I can't think of anything, I go to the basics. I have food on my table. I have clothing. I have a place to live. There's 3 really good things to be grateful for right there. And then once you reduce it down to the basic stuff, it's not so difficult to start moving it to someplace else that feels good, feels better than where you're at right now. And, in Abraham terms, enables you to climb that level, that ladder up one level at a time, one rung at a time, to get yourself into a better feeling place.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think starting small is huge, because you'll think of other stuff, right?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
and start close to you. I think the reason I feel so good afterwards is because I feel love, and it's not that anybody has to tell me that they love me. It's I'm reminding myself that I'm loved, right? Like, so when I'm grateful, where I start every time, because I'm always going to be grateful for them, is my friends and my family, right? Like that's where I start, and I get deep into the why, and it just fills me with love. I'm like, man, like, no matter what happens, like, I just reminded of all these things that these people have done and would do for me. So, and then, later I get into the material, I have a, roof over my head and I have this or that. But really, when you are grateful for the relationships and those things, that's what really brings you the most joy, I think,
Mm-hmm.
Very true. And it can be all kinds of relationships. It can be family. It can be friends. It can be pets. Pets are a wonderful kind of relationship. I mean, you have 2 pets that are also service dogs for you, Alyx, and they also they have to be friends too, right? I mean, they
friends.
They got to be a big part of your life. Well, that's a great thing right there.
They're a huge part of my life.
Only when they're off duty.
But when you have friends like that, you always have, that's a go-to, right? You can always count on them to be there, because that's, especially with dogs, that's the great thing. You can even venture out of your comfort zone, leave the home, you could actually leave them at home, come back, 4 hours later, and it's as if, oh wow, she's home for the first time, how exciting this is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, their love is unconditional, and
it truly is
a great feeling.
Yeah, it is a great feeling.
That's funny. That reminds me of something or someone. And this is not to compare him to a dog, because this is one of my.
Well, that's an interesting setup.
Best friends from when I did work at Amazon, but this guy who I started at Amazon with, his name was Amadou. He was like, every time I would see him, my mom wouldn't even get that excited to see me. Like, he was just. He brought so much joy to, like, every time he would see you, it's like the best thing that's ever happened to him. And it wasn't a fake thing either. Like, when you can tell when someone's over the top and fake, he was just like genuine, like, it's just his joy just like, it was pouring out of him to where you couldn't help but be, joyous with him. And, so shout out to Amadou. I always remember that. But his energy definitely spoke for him way before, he was even, close to you. So it's one of those kind of guys.
Yeah, people like that.
Other people's energy can be contagious. So that's always a good thing, to keep good people in your circle. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a term for that. I can't think of what it is, a term that they use in therapeutic circles that describes somebody like that. But that person is like a go-to. And the term means that they're a go-to for somebody if you need to pick me up, if you need to feel good, you need to feel loved, you need to feel something, strong and positive and just to help turn things around. Oh, a lollipop person. That's what it is. It's a lollipop person.
I love it.
I think I've been accused of being a lollipop person in the past.
Same. Same.
Yeah, but that's definitely somebody that sticks in your head.
Yeah. And it's good. So, I mean, if you're going to be accused of something, you might as well be accused of something good, because that's a really good thing to be accused of.
Yeah.
This is why I passed along a couple more messages. Brownon is saying Happy Thanksgiving and totally agrees. It is so true about being grateful. So, yeah, Brownon and Hannah are our two big commenters right now, and they're both saying yes, they're totally on board with what we're saying. And by the way, feel free to post your if you have any questions or comments, feel free to post them, because we want this to be interactive. We want our live listeners to be able to interact with us and tell us what they think, what's going on, what's important to them, where not only the issue of dealing with anxiety and dealing with being in a negative place is, but really anything that you're dealing with where trying to be a deliberate creator is involved, where trying to use the law of attraction in your life is involved. Because really, you think about it, law of attraction applies in every aspect of life. And whether or not you have a condition such as anxiety as an official condition applied to you by a therapist or not, all of us have to deal with negativity at various times. And when we're dealing with negativity, those are the times when we most need to know, okay, well, what am I attracting? What am I not attracting? And how can I shift that around? Because that reinforces for us what it is we can, what makes us powerful. That's where Gabriel got his idea that he had a superpower rather than a detriment, which is a very powerful and positive thing.
Agreed.
No, Brownon says I want to be a lollipop person. Good desire. Good thing to aim for. I like that.
Well, you're going in the right direction just by putting it out there.
Absolutely, yeah. And the fact that you put it out there means you probably already are. Because
yeah.
that's something you just kind of are. If you're the kind of person who's giving and smiling a lot. And how would you describe your friend, the one that you had at Amazon? What were his defining characteristics? Because you said he was always so accepting.
I would say that exactly. Is always smiling, always just positive, always great, something good to say to you, something positive to say to you. Oh, it's a beautiful day today, or something very just uplifting. It's like, yeah, I mean, of course, yeah. It's just and we worked nights, so this was like at this would probably be at like 3 a.m. or something.
It's a beautiful day out there, 3 a.m.
He comes around the corner, just sees and smiling. Oh yeah. The time when you shouldn't be as joyous. He just wore it, like a badge. So it was very.
I got to ask you, what are you doing at Amazon at 3 a.m.? What kind of work do they have you doing? I mean.
That's where. So I started working as a manager at the warehouse. So.
Oh, I see. It was warehouse work.
So there's a day so.
Oh, okay. So you're processing orders and so forth. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So 7 p.m. to 7 a.m.
I mean, I figured it was possible, but if you're working customer service, you weren't going to be getting a whole lot of calls at that hour. I mean, it's possible, but just.
I've called Amazon at 2 a.m. So
have you really?
I have.
Okay. Did you talk to Carlos? No, forget that.
No, I didn't talk to Carlos.
I think he would have been
working there. I would just call him directly.
Yeah, right.
Excuse me, where's my package?
Right.
I've had people do that. Yeah, hey, where's my package at? Like, I'm not Santa Claus, bro.
Oh, that's funny. Brownon has some more comments. Keeping positive is awesome. I've come a long way. Good for you. Yeah, coming a long way. That indicates you've been working on yourself. And that feeds into something I was thinking about a moment ago when we were talking about how important it is to have people that we can go to if we need a pick-me-up. It's also important to build ourselves up. We often kind of forget that part, but self-esteem, self-confidence, self-love, those are really powerful tools to use. I mean, Alyx, I imagine because you deal with so many issues, that's one of the things you probably focus on. on trying to develop for yourself. But that's big. You got to love yourself. You got to feel good about yourself.
But it took a long time. I was at a very low point. I also went through depression and had suicidal ideation. So there was a time where self-love was not a practice of mine.
Wow. How'd you turn that around?
My support system.
Mm-hmm.
Just, my mom, my brother, everybody pouring in. I did end up losing some friends because they were like, oh, this is too much for me. And yeah, so that even made it even worse because I was like, oh, well then now I have no friends. But, you become grateful for the people that stay in your life and that are there for you in the hard times. And just, taking it day by day. And honest to God, I will say it again, TV, because the show Supernatural deals, not the characters on the show, but the actors on the show, one of them deals with depression and anxiety, and he speaks out on it a lot, and it brought me closer into the show. And he has this campaign for suicide awareness. And that really touched my heart. So I contribute to that, and just, slowly taking it week by week going, okay, well, first I was like, well, if they can do this on the show, then I can make it through the next week. Or not only that, but now I have to know what happens next week. So let me give another week. So it's
I can see that.
Little things save my life.
Yeah, I can see that. Your comment also that, I don't remember exactly how you said it, but the way I heard it was you find out who your friends are. Reminded me of, it was an HBO special on the relationship between the pro basketball players Magic Johnson and Larry Bird, who were like the players of the 1980s. And these guys were like fierce rivals. I mean, absolutely fierce rivals. They were always going head to head for, they played the NCAA championship in 1979, and they went head to head for the NBA championships a number of different years. They wouldn't even speak to each other and so forth. And then one day along comes the news that Magic Johnson has HIV. And he has to quit his career, which actually was devastating to him. But he was determined he was going to survive anyway. And a lot of his friends, people he played with in the NBA, wouldn't have anything to do with him. But on the day that the news came out, he took a call from Larry Bird, because Larry Bird wanted to find out, are you okay? And that actually became the basis of them becoming really, really close friends. And one of the comments that Magic made in this HBO special on their friendship and on their competitive relationship and so forth was exactly that. You find out who your friends are. And I found out that day that Larry Bird was my friend. And he also goes on to say that one of the things about Larry, because Larry's talk about, I'm not sure about anxiety, but talk about being introverted and being shy. Larry is extremely shy. And he says, it's not easy to be a friend of Larry, but when you're a friend of his, you're a friend for life. And that's how I am. Yeah. Yeah. That's a powerful thing. So when you find out somebody is your real friend, that's huge. That's really huge. Yeah. And you experienced that personally.
Yes, I have. Yeah. Because I'm a very loyal friend, so to have someone just drop out of your life like that is detrimental.
Right. You realize when you get older too, you don't have that many friends. Like you have a lot of, especially like, my personality is one where, if somebody doesn't like me, I have to know why and I have to change it, So, and for that to be said, I mean, I enjoy, pleasing people and just making people happy and all those things. So a lot of people will, when they see me, oh, Carlos, and they're, so those are friends, but you got to realize what kind of friends are those friends, right? Like, and then what kind of friends are like the ones that you can, hold on to and that are there for those times. Cause I have them all over the spectrum, and I don't see, some friends as less than because they just aren't as close. You know what I mean? Like I just have, I feel like there's people in your life for every situation, and even like relationships you might have had that didn't last. Like I always, try to look at them in a positive light if I can. Right? They were there for a reason. Like everybody's there for a season, right?
Mm-hmm.
To teach you
And
something and a reason. So kind of looking at in that aspect. So because I think I'm the complete opposite of Alyx, to where like Alyx doesn't like a lot of people, or she has agoraphobia, right? So she can't be in places with a lot of people. To me, the more people, the better. Like I just need everybody, just as many people as possible. And so it's funny that it's kind of a perspective from both sides of the aisle, right? It's like people don't necessarily give me anxiety, but other things do. I don't know if that makes sense.
Well, I was thinking that there's a parallel. Oh, go ahead, Alyx. Sorry.
I was going to say the weird thing for me is I wasn't always this way. I was exactly like Carlos. Like I used to throw birthday parties with like 100 people.
Oh, wow.
And and I would always be, like I said, I was on stage all the time. I was always hanging out at the clubs. Like I never had a problem with being in public places and people. It just snuck up on me.
That's pretty crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I wanted to mention something, Carlos. When we were talking there, it reminded me of that special I saw about Larry and Magic, because Magic, when he was at the pinnacle of his career, was basically called the King of L.A. He was so popular. And one of the reasons he was so popular is he was so outgoing. He loved everybody, and everybody loved him. And literally, he could have run for any office he wanted to. Not that he would, but he could have run for any office he wanted to in Southern California, and won hands down. He was that popular, and he was that loved.
Yeah.
Which was one of the things that they distinguished in that HBO special, because Larry Bird was exactly the opposite. So the two of them would be like when they were both on the Dream Team, the Olympic team that went over to Barcelona. They would be in a hotel, and there'd be a crowd of people out front wanting to meet Magic Johnson, and Magic would be like driving right for that door. He wanted to get there as fast as possible, and Larry's looking for a side exit. How quickly can I get out of this? I don't want to be anywhere near all that crowd.
Yeah.
That would be me and Carlos in a group.
Right.
Yeah, but that's actually fun. It's funny that you use that word, because I think that's what you have to distinguish is popularity is not friendship. Also,
true,
right? It's like
true.
So again, it's like, oh yeah, we love Carlos and he's entertaining and stuff, but are they going to invite you to their wedding?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So that's right. So, and there was a time where it was like my feelings were hurt because I am very outgoing. I'm like, well, I feel like I do have all these friends. And then, you get into the time of your life where people start to get married and this thing, and you see like, pictures from the thing, and you're like, oh, I know all these people, but I was not invited to something like this, and so at that time it was hurtful. I was like, man, like people like me, but they don't like me that much to invite me. But then I thought about it, and again, popularity is not friendship, and so I'm happy for the people that I go out and we hang out for a time or whatever, and we have a good time, and I'm also happy for the friends that I have that are like there through and through, So I'm now grateful for both.
Yeah,
It's
you have your close circle, and what I like to call holiday friends. Those are the friends that you call on holidays. You just check in a couple times a year.
Yeah.
And then you have your Facebook friends, which are acquaintances. You know what I mean? There's different categories for everybody. But you appreciate everyone. Yeah, exactly. There's levels to this stuff. Yeah.
There are levels to it. Yeah. It's funny because for most of my life, because of my shyness, especially when I was younger, I could count my friends on one hand. And I could count my acquaintances on that same hand because I just didn't have that experience that Alyx, you used to have and that Carlos still has of just being, happy in a group and sort of generally popular and so forth. I never experienced that. So for me, it was always just that small handful, and that was it. And I mean, I'll admit there's a piece of me that's kind of envious of you guys. You actually got to experience what I didn't experience, and I've often wondered what that was like. But by the same token, I understand completely what you're saying, Carlos, that there's a big difference between friendship and popularity. They're not really the same thing at all. Maybe that's why I only counted the friends. Maybe I just kind of ignored the rest of it because I don't know, intuitively noticed that, that wasn't going to get me anywhere. I don't know.
Well, like I said, some people just don't care about that.
Yeah. Popularity doesn't stay with you throughout life. Like, that's only important in high school and college. Like, after that, nobody really cares.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. There are very few people who are friends that long.
I would say that in entertainment, it kind of follows.
That's true.
It is good to,
to have
the popularity there. But I was going to say is that not everybody cares about popularity. Like I said, that's a very particular thing about me, and that's, I see even almost as a personality flaw to where I get, people just have to like me. Like, and it's something that I am vocally self-critical about, and I know. But yeah, it's upsetting if I know somebody does that. I don't know why. It's like, why wouldn't they like I'm such a nice person. What did I do? It's like I take it very personally to the heart, and something I work on, but it's funny. Like I said, Walt, you completely opposite. That was not something that, again, I drive a lot of happiness from attention, and somebody like you, where you're more introverted, maybe not as much, So
I've often asked myself. I mean, with introversion, I've often wondered, was I cutting myself off from attention? To be perfectly honest.
No, but see that's the thing. It's like I feel like introverted people in our society get a very bad rap, and it's like, oh well, but you are who you are, right? So
right.
Like,
oh yeah.
You didn't miss out on. Like I said, I craved attention and I got it. I got what I wanted for my happiness, right? You craved being more singular or having a small group, and that was fine. Like, that's all you needed. I'm gonna just hang out with these guys, and we're gonna do everything. Like, that's and you drive your happiness from that. So it's for everybody who's gonna drive their happiness from different things, and that's why, like, it's funny. Like, I'll talk about being extroverted just in conversation, and I have a lot of introverted friends, which is funny. But they'll say something like that. Oh, well, I wish I was more extrovert. I was like, why? You wouldn't enjoy it. You wish that you enjoyed being more extroverted, but really, like, you're living, to what makes you happy. So as long as you do that, I think you're and
it's
right.
A lot of work too to be extroverted because you have to be on all the time.
Yeah. And that's why I decided to be, or that's part of the reason I decided to be a stand-up comedian, because I was already on all the time. Like everywhere I go, people are looking to me to entertain, and I accepted that responsibility as and some days I would even be like on the way to a party or a function, and I'm like tired, and like I'm not smiling, like I'm in the car, and I'm just like, man, like do I even go, because am I gonna be? And then I get there and it just turns on. It's like now it's automatic, right? So
yep.
But you're right. There's times where it's just like, especially when you're going through, like, we talk about anxiety and depression, and you don't want to, you don't want to reach out to friends, and you don't want to reach out. You kind of just want to be in a bubble. And then when you're not getting that attention that you're always used to getting, then that kind of compounds it. So there's definitely drawbacks to the extroverted life. Don't let anybody fool you, Walt.
No, actually, I'm not fooled by it. In fact, I didn't really want to be an extrovert. What I wanted was a balance, which is what I ended up going for. I didn't want to be so heavily introverted that I couldn't even have a social life. That I couldn't even date. I couldn't even get anywhere. I mean, I had no growing friendships, and if I lost a friendship, I was dead. There was no way to replace them because I was so heavily introverted. Well, I wanted to shift that so that I wasn't in that place anymore. I didn't want to be a complete extrovert because I think I knew that, you're on all the time, and I couldn't be on all the time. What's interesting is I think I've learned that anyone can really shift along that spectrum because I have. And in addition to that, when you shift just by living your life, here I am, I'm doing a podcast with, I've got a dozen of you as co-hosts. my goal is to have tens of thousands of listeners. If I suggested that idea to myself when I was in my early 20s, I probably would have curled up in a corner and started sucking my thumb, because that was just outside of the realm of possibility. And here I am, I'm actually enjoying that possibility. So my point is you can shift. It is possible to shift if you really want to. But you just want to be careful about how you shift to. I honestly think that the ideal is somewhere in the middle, but that's just me.
Well, you know what that middle ground is called, right?
What's that?
Omnivert.
Omnivert.
Omnivert. That is the word for being in between an introvert and an extrovert.
I did not know that. That's very interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
You learn something new every day, and that is yours.
There it is. Okay. Well, actually, I learned something else new. Because, first of all, we have a couple comments to share. One of them is, from Bronwyn, who said, "You all seem so real." And I take that as a compliment, because if you're looking, if it feels like
I keep
we're
100
real
all the time.
Yeah. I mean, that means we're real humans.
Admittedly, I'm a robot, so. I fooled you. I'm made by Intel.
Well, you passed the Turing test, so congratulations. You passed yourself successfully as a human being. And then Janina, who's also, I don't know if you guys know, there's a bunch of us who put out a book in May on law of attraction stories, really cool law of attraction things that happen in our lives. Most of the contributors were life coaches. One of the contributors to that book was Janina, and she's listening in. She says there are quite a few introverts out there who envy extroverts because they appear to be happier because they seem to have more friends. But extroverts have their challenges too, and I think that's what you were talking about, Carlos. It can work either way. There are plenty of challenges.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Janina also added another comment. She says, yes to shifting. Being in the vortex more often helps you to do that, and that's absolutely true. Yeah. I wish I had known that earlier on. I was just trying to shift by, forcing it. But if I had known, I could have, if I had even understood what the vortex was, if I had been aware of law of attraction concepts and so forth. Yeah, it's a lot easier to move from that perspective, because what you're really doing is getting into a happy place and then trying to make a move. And I always used to do it the other way. I still do it the other way around sometimes. I try to just move and hope that's going to get me into a happy place, and it's the wrong way around.
The other way around.
It really is. Well, we're down to just a couple minutes. I want to make sure I get our messages in before we run out of time entirely. First of all, have you subscribed? If you haven't subscribed, please become a subscriber. Most of the places where this is posted do have links in the descriptions about the links that'll enable you to subscribe with whatever kind of device you have. And once you become a subscriber, and if you can't find the links, just go to the homepage of our website, loatoday.net. We got nice big links set up there for you as well. And then once you're a subscriber, and for all our existing subscribers and all of our listeners on the Law of Attraction Change My Life group, please post out there on social media that you're listening, because we want to spread the word. And Walt wants to climb out of that comfort zone and get more people paying attention to him. So, no, but seriously, we want more people to get their daily dose of happy. We want to spread the cheer. We want to spread the joy, and you guys can help us to do that. So please post that you've been listening and share the fact, and let people know about the daily dose of happy at LOA today. And with that thought in mind, let's see, where are we at? I think we're just down to a couple minutes left, about a minute left. So I'm going to give each of you guys one last word. What's the big takeaway today? I'm going to go to you first, Carlos. What's the big takeaway where anxiety and this whole thing about extroversion and introversion is concerned?
Just be happy, right? Like find your happiness. I think that Alyx touched on stuff that Gabriel tried that didn't work for her, and she has her 2 service dogs, and one's for one thing and the other's for the other. Like, she's figured out she's in the process of figuring out her happiness, her system, whatever she needs to do in order to find that. And I think that, in my situation, right, I just love people and love, just being around as many as possible. And that's where I find my happiness. And that's why I get on stage. And Walt, you're more introverted, and finding a balance. And that's for you, balance is something that's really important to you. So I think that don't get too enamored with, what you see of someone else's life, or like that's that comment, extroverts have more fun or what. It's all perception. It's all about finding your own happy. So.
That's very good. That's good. And Alyx, you get the last word. What's the last word on this?
I agree with Carlos. I think everyone should just find their happy, and that's where you should be content with. is what makes you happy. Not what makes everybody else happy, what makes it you look like you're happy, but what actually physically makes you happy.
Very good. Excellent last word. I love it. We'll just leave it right there. We'll invite you all to come back next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.